Okay. So we're looking at these books for younger readers that are in the hallway. This case also includes a ton of fairy tales. This whole shelf is folk and fairy tales right here. And all the Oz books I think I might want to talk about separate. The color fairy books, that should definitely be a video. I suppose Roald Dahl could be. Anyway, so I got this box up here, so it means that the section continues and starts up here. Okay, so we looked at these in a previous video. Started to look at this and then someone called and it cut the video off. I don't know who did this amazing cover. Let's see if we can find out. No cover art credit, but pretty awesome. It's not illustrated inside, but there are these drawings of the trillions dividing the chapters. But I read this in second grade and I couldn't believe it. And no one else knew about it, and it seemed like this special book that only I had ever heard of. I got it from the library at the American International School in Vienna. Years later, I bought this on eBay when my kids were little and I was reading them books. It's like a 5-star world, but a pretty middling story. Gets hung up with this general character and it's pretty unlikely. Why are these kids so important to these big war room meetings? But the idea of trillions of little tiny metal BBs like this raining down on Earth, and this kid realizing that they're a giant alien collective and can communicate with him psychically, that's all way cool. It's also just a beautiful looking 80s hardback sci-fi book for younger readers. Look at that. Incredible. I should display this somehow. Love it. Actually 1971, but it was still kicking around in the 80s when I was a kid. This book's just amazing. This is one of my favorite books for younger readers, period. It's a masterpiece of literature. It's excellent. Oh, here we have Maurice Sendak again. Wild where he shows up just in the last video. But this book is like a forgotten classic. It needs a movie adaptation. It won the Newbery. It's so good. These kids in an old-time Dutch town want to bring storks back to their village, so they go around trying to find a wagon wheel to put on the roof of the school. But everyone's using their wagon wheels for good purposes. But it gets everyone in town reminiscing about the storks and talking about the storks and trying to find a solution together, and it creates this community that had kind of fallen into decay anew over the issue of storks. It's so great, and it's so full of good stories. Love this book, and all my kids have loved this book. Everybody remembers this fondly. My son Hagen recently, when reminded of this, was like, oh yeah, that book's fire. Loved this book when I was a kid. Loved rereading it to all my kids. It's excellent. Hurry Home Candy by the same author is really good. He's kind of been forgotten, but Rainer de Jong is an excellent writer for younger readers. And this is one of the books I'd love to turn into a movie if I ever had a chance. Here we have kind of an important literary artifact, the first Choose Your Own Adventure book, an old edition of it. Choose Your Own Adventure is such a cool idea that you can make the choices and decide where to turn. It's something different for books, but it's a lot of fun. Is this something new under the sun? Was there anything like Choose Your Own Adventure books before? What's the earliest historic precedent, I wonder? Cave of Time. I used to have a bunch of these, and I only kept this one. Again, I purged the book collection from 11,000 down to 3,000 or 4,000 when I moved into this place. Walking across the country forever ago, used to play a version of Choose Your Own Adventure on the hike, telling stories. It's very funny. My then brother, now sister, would always be like, so you want to have either a taco or some pizza? Turn to page 12 if you want a taco. Turn to page 78 if you want a pizza. You're all like, a taco. Well, you think about having a taco, but you decide to get a pizza instead. He wouldn't let you choose. It was very funny. Now she talked about these wonder books a bit in the video my daughter Anodyne and I did together, of books that were a part of her life, have been a part of her life. The book was kind of a phenomenon, huge hit. About a kid with a facial deformity. Something about it really grabbed kids. Here's a tie-in book about side characters. There's a journal, and I was so into it. We were all kind of disappointed by the movie, but It's interesting to hear Anodyne's thoughts in that one video. Scroll down the feed, you'll find it. This is kind of an interesting book. I saw a movie based on it. Who did the movie? Won the Caldecott. Is this the one? Or was it the... Oh, or by the same author. Oh, yeah, this guy wrote Hugo, which Martin Scorsese turned into a movie. This one was turned into a movie, too. I remember watching it with a kid. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it does show that books are really malleable and stories can be told in all these different hybrid ways. Good job, good job. Kids do love beautiful illustrations. At least they used to. What's left up here? Sammy the Crow Who Remembered. What? Okay, that's not what I expected. It's got photos in it. $1969. This is great. You got another stack. Bird's Nest, also very cool. Nice game. I don't really acquire books like this for my kids anymore because they're just not really open to whatever random suggestion usually. I loved Enid Blyton as a kid, even though she would like repeat her plots completely from volume to volume. They were pretty compelling. I loved her book, The Treasure Hunters, but that's kind of a beat-for-beat copy of Famous Five, book one. Always very similar. She's kind of like Ruth Chu in that way. All her stories are really similar. Enid Blyton was always about a few kids finding a treasure. Ruth Chu was always about two kids, a boy and a girl, meeting a witch. Enid Blyton, much more popular in England than in America. But because 3 years of my childhood were in Austria, it's a beautiful book, I think. I wanted to display it for a while, but I haven't found the best way to do that. Oh, here's a classic, Alice in Wonderland. Maybe this should be in the paperback project, honestly. Pretty foundational in literature. I mean, seriously. Only my kind of mild lack of enthusiasm for this book is stopping that from happening. It is a classic, though. Who did this pretty edition? Collier. No book information on here. It's the 1973 printing of a 1962 edition. Yeah, I mean, I read these as a kid and enjoyed them, I think. And they stuck with me. I remembered parts of them. Lewis Carroll was kind of a weirdo whose hobby was photographing prepubescent girls. I'm very wary of that. Well, think about adding this to the paperback project, but like, what would it replace? This is a memorable book. This is by John Christopher, who wrote the Tripod Trilogy. That's a pseudonym. But it's about the sun like burning out and how it reshapes global politics. And people in Africa become the most powerful on the planet because there's some warmth there still. And everybody that goes there is like a desperate refugee. The long winter. I remember enjoying this one. I read it a couple times. Oh, look at this beautiful cover. What? It's an incredible cover. It's so good. The Lotus Caves by John Christopher. About a moon base. I remember reading it with my son Hagen one time. Did we finish it? Look at this cover. John Christopher was a real legacy of... Oh, it's from my favorite bookstore in Las Cruces. Maybe one of the best in the state. Previously, it was at Book Basket of El Paso. Huh. 55 cents. 1969 edition. It's so hard to hold these books with one hand sometimes. Same year as Woodstock, and the Woodstock in this book cover. I get it. Some author. Who did this cover? Credit these people. No visual credit anywhere in this book, but that's beautiful. That should be displayed, really. The Tripod Trilogy, incredible. High marks of YA sci-fi. It's them right there. His book, The Death of Grass for adults, I've heard is really good. What would happen if just all the grass died everywhere? Banner in the Sky, James Ramsey Ullman. This author must have had a day in the sun. Annie Dillard mentions him in a book in Holy the Firm. I've never been able to track down the book that's mentioned in Holy the Firm, but I found a couple others. I also have River of the Sun and Banner in the Sky. Ah, I know what you did last summer. There's no fisherman with a hook in this one. She was so mad about that movie adaptation. I kind of knew her. I knew her pretty well, but all online through social media, through Facebook. She lived in New Mexico before, and we had mutual friends and ended up in the same comments section. And she became like kind of an admirer of my work and stuff. One time she shared my status update, and it was really controversial with some of her friends. And she took it down and sent me an apology. But I always thought she was really cool, and she just wanted to catch her daughter's killer. She was really single-minded. She hated a lot of adaptations of her work. But, you know. These kids run over somebody and then decide not to tell anybody. And they start getting picked off. Oh, I loved this book. I read this like a dozen times, 20 times or something growing up. Loved The Wish Giver. A great honor book. Bill Britton had some Albuquerque connection later. It's like a classic monkey's paw type tale. Set in this town where magic stuff goes down. There's a lot of really memorable things in this. Memorable images. Guy growing into the ground. Oh, is this the same illustrator that did those scary stories to tell in the dark? Let's see. Drawings. Drawings by Andrew Glass. I don't know if it is the same. There's some more kind of random ones. And there's 3 other parts of the shelf that kind of have themes. Oh, this guy is kind of nonfiction. He was a country vet and wrote these stories about all the animals he dealt with over the years. And I remember loving these books when I was a kid. I think they kind of have like a Christian angle to them, but they're awesome stories of saving animals' lives and beautiful stories of animal-human connection. Great characters, you know, country doctor vibes. A warm, joyous, and often hilarious first-person chronicle of a young animal doctor. I think these have been adapted multiple times. Yeah, I guess I keep it around with the thought, yeah, maybe I'd reread him someday. Would I? I don't know. I didn't keep all the James Herriot that I have, just this first one. Nice little addition, solid. Some of the Monkeys. This is the guy who wrote Where the Red Fern Grows' other published book. I hear he burned all his manuscripts. Besides these two, thought they were too repetitive. And there are commonalities between these two. This is kind of an alternate universe version of Where the Red Fern Grows, with a happier ending. And is it? Is there a happier ending? Do his dogs live? I can't remember. But they save all these monkeys. Oh yeah. Once I hiked through an area of Florida where wild monkeys still lived because they had escaped from a production of Son of Tarzan in the 30s. But I sure loved both these books when I was a kid. I read them many times, which is crazy because Where the Red Fern Grows is like torture porn, you know? To voluntarily subject oneself to that. I don't remember that about this one, so yeah. I do think there's loss, etc. This one's also been adapted into a movie, but I don't remember the movie too much. These book covers are kind of famous because it's not known for sure who the author or authors, or not authors, artists were. And look at them, they're just incredible. I mean, what? I pick both these up, copies of both whenever I see them, just because they look so amazing. I think I've got one on the wall that I need to Mod Podge. Yeah, once I buy some Mod Podge, I will. But right now it's tacked up there. Squirrel, you are not respecting these books enough. Don't appreciate it. Prismo, what's your take? I don't love A Wrinkle in Time, honestly. I loved it as a kid. I remember reading it and just being like, wow. It's not one of those that I've ever been able to reconnect with when I'm older. Reading it to all my kids, I was kind of like, It was pretty far out, though. Seems to have a lot of 1980s anti-communist hysteria in it. And I never liked any of the sequels. I just couldn't get into them. I'm not saying they're not good, but I've just never had that magic click with them. But I don't have the aesthetic ability to get rid of things that look like this. Here's a weird Dystopian liar. I years ago, watched a movie adaptation of this at a hotel, and I was like, that's the story of that? That's all that happens? I do remember reading this. Oh, and Robert C. O'Brien wrote it, who wrote The Rats of Nim. Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. This is a cool, interesting book. Have I ever gotten all the way through it? I started reading this to my kids, I think, twice. And we read a lot of it. And I watched a movie of it once. And I like it. But it's definitely like a committed read. I don't think I've ever read it all the way through. But it's cool. The way that it justifies rabbit action and animal action is really cool and smart. I really enjoyed it. It's like a Lord of the Rings, but with a burrow of rabbits. I grew up with this book called The Animals of Farthing Wood, and when I heard about this later, I was like, well, I'm pretty sure that one was just kind of copying Watership Down a lot of similarities. But that one I read many times. It's funny the things you grow up with. Like, I grew up with the Prydain Chronicles instead of Lord of the Rings. And later when I heard about Lord of the Rings, I'm like, wow, Prydain borrowed a lot from that. Lord of the Rings, Prydain. And then Island of the Blue Dolphins. Yeah, this book really resonated with people. Ooh, look at those beautiful dyed edges. Neat. This is good. I liked this book as a kid. I even read the sequel. But my kid's mom loved it. I think it was her favorite book growing up. Led to her running away a couple times. Something like that. Based on a true story of a young woman left behind after an invasion. Alright, so these have been some books for younger readers. You know, the books you read when you're young, they're really formative. You read them a bunch of times. They imprint themselves on you. It's kind of harrowing to go back and look at them a little bit sometimes. I remember being a little picked on 6th grader at Roosevelt Middle School reading this book. Don't like those feelings. It's still in my nervous system. Why must the body keep the score? What's this one about anyway? Banner in the sky. The Citadel. Or climbing in the Alps. Huh. Honestly, both of these could be moved to the paperback project, and they wouldn't be out of place there. I don't think I'm going to do it, though. I do hope it gets to the phase eventually where I've read most of those, because I'm trying to get to a faster pace where I read like at least a half an hour every day, ideally an hour. Because many days I just don't sit down with a book. Somehow I miss it entirely. It's like minutes here and there, or while I'm falling asleep, and that's it. But that ain't going to cut it. I'm never going to finish reading that case at that rate. Squirrel knows it, and that's why I respect her, because she tells me the truth about these things. Sweet Pea knows it. And so does Priz. I mean, it's going to be so cool to say, I have read all of those books looking at this case. And then I'll see a bright light at the end of a tunnel. And I'll try not to go toward it, but I'll feel pulled, compelled. It's a joke, because it's going to take me the rest of my freaking life to read these things. Okay, next up in a separate video, weird, supposedly true stories of the weird in paperback form. What? Is that a category even? I always wanted my kids to just read all these and have weird conversations with me for a few days. I don't think anyone ever did. I'll also talk a little about the Anne of Green Gables books, though I have not read them all. But that could be a separate video maybe. I'll definitely do something on L. Frank Baum's Oz in one of the next videos. And then fairy tales, folk and fairy tales. Maybe I'll do shorter videos for a bunch of series, because there's so many here that like deserve their own little discussion maybe.